All right, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be talking about 3 tips for Italian-style dueling saber. Really, it applies to generally any saber style. Wow. I'm joined this week by Brian. Say hello, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Perfect. So, we're going to be talking about 3 techniques to keep in mind whenever you're fighting with saber. And the first one should be basic, but I feel like I've got to bring it up anyway, and that is this. When you're fighting with a saber, in fact, in my opinion, when you're fighting with any sword that's not a real heavy hewing sword, you want to make sure you're using opposition parries and not counter blows into the blow. In other words, don't cut into a cut, especially with Italian style dueling sabers. You're going to end up breaking the sword. And here's what I mean by that. Brian and I are fighting. He delivers a cut to my left shoulder. So he cuts, okay? Nice opposition parry, right? No problem there. Now I'm ready to riposte, to countercut, okay? Well, what you tend to see a lot is he cuts at my shoulder, and I cut back. Now he cuts at this shoulder, and I cut back there. Well, now we're banging 2 pieces of metal together, and metal is fragile, and eventually the swords will break. In practice, that's a safety concern. In real life, it gets you killed because you no longer have a weapon. So don't countercut into your opponent's weapon in direct opposition. Instead, especially with the dueling saber styles with the lighter blade, use an opposition. Frankly, if you can, use a deflection. If he cuts, okay, I can use an opposition parry that deflects it to the side. Okay, so I'm not even stopping the full force of his blade. But you, in my opinion, definitely don't want to countercut. There's always going to be exceptions to every rule. Okay, if he cuts at my head, I can hew sideways because now I'm not directly opposing it. But you get the idea. I shouldn't have to spell everything out. So the second thing is this: watch your elbow creep. Okay, I believe you should always fight with a heavy elbow, unless you're using, you know, a like cream or true gardant or whatever you want to call it, or a hanging 8, or, you know, St. George's parry or any derivation thereof that requires you to raise that arm. Your general stance is going to be, you know, a mid-level neutral stance with the elbow down. Now the problem I've seen is this: Brian starts swinging at me, and where does he swing? He's swinging at my head, he's swinging at my shoulders, okay? And so as he swings, I start to parry. He keeps going, okay? I keep this up, all right? And eventually what happens is I'm no longer guarding below my armpit because I've let my elbow creep up. Now that's a very natural and instinctive response because all of our sensory organs are above on this little slim stalk sticking out of our shoulders. And so we want to protect those. And so we tend to get up, and especially when he's cutting high, of course I'm coming up to reach it, okay? The problem becomes then when he feigns high, and I keep that elbow up and he cuts low, okay? And I'm vulnerable. So my recommendation is discipline yourself to try and keep your elbow close to your side, so that if he cuts up high, okay, great, and I come down, all right? Now, obviously, if he's doing a moulinet, if he cuts left and then right, okay? So cut this shoulder, then this shoulder, boom, boom, okay? I didn't have to bring the elbow all the way back down, okay? And likewise, if he does the same thing, cuts over here, and I hang, okay? And he cuts over here, I could drop it down, or I can do a hanging parry to that side. So there's going to be exceptions where you can let it hang up there for a second to complete a technique. All I'm saying is be aware that if your hand is coming up, it means your elbow is coming up, which means you're losing the ability to defend anything below the elbow. Okay? So recommend keeping it. The last point really goes to martially valid, martially sound blows. And you tend to see a lot of this in sparring, particularly amongst people that are just learning how to do either single stick or saber. Generally any single-handed weapon that's not reaping. And that is, Brian swings at me, I parry, okay, and I want to countercut, but I don't want to get close to him because his sword's right there. So I'll cut, well, I'm not reaching him here, okay? So I'll keep it out here and I'll just kind of do this touchy thing. And then I'll whap him and I'll go, there you go, you've been touched, right? Well, there's no power to that, okay? You've got to know the length of your weapon, you've got to know your distance, and you've got to be able to deliver a blow on the sweet spot of your blade so that it actually gives a martially valid blow. So in this case, if he cuts high, okay, I can parry. Well, I can't reach him from here. So I've got to be prepared to use that distance. I've got to be prepared from here to step in and countercut so that I'm deep enough into distance, deep enough into my range that I'll deliver a martially valid blow. Now, from that same technique, if he cuts overhead, there's nothing to say that I can't defend myself while I do this. Obviously, I could step forward, clear his hand, deliver that blow. But that, I think Brian would agree, is a much more valid blow than this. Okay? But that's all. Let me know if you have any questions on this, any comments, if there's anything in particular you'd like to see with regard to saber or any other type of single sword sparring. I'm happy to try to address it in future videos. Otherwise, see you on the list.